if you knew some of the thoughts that I had in the last 24 hours, you probably wouldn't even have me on as your guest, just to be honest with you. We fight so many temptations and trials and bad thoughts, and it's constant, man. It's constant. You know how guys are, and there's just constant battle that we face in the relationship challenges that I've had and the bad decisions that I've made over the course of my life. And listen.
Hey, our guest today has learned a few things about no excuses, making things amazing, and that everything is figure-outable, as he puts it. Welcome Aaron Walker today, who is a life and business coach. He is a master of creating masterminds for men and women. Aaron has spent more than 43 years as an entrepreneur, multiple businesses, and that has actually opened doors and opened relationships and created opportunities for him to create masterminds. He started Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind. He wrote a book called View from the Top, which I hope we get into today. He loves to give back through his own experiences, and really feels that masterminds and community and groups of people, iron sharpening iron, is the ticket, is the secret sauce. And so welcome Aaron Walker to Last in Line Podcast. Hey, Aaron Walker, man, welcome to Last in Line Podcast.
Hey, John, man, so good to be here today. I already noticed that we've got some things in common. We got the American flag up behind us, so
that's
I'm
right.
Excited about that.
We got God and country as the foundation of this talk, so I think we'll be okay.
We'll be in good shape.
Man, I was looking at your work, and it really hit home with me and resonated, the work you're doing in men's ministry and with masterminds and the company you created called View from the Top. And, you know, your masterminds, that the iron sharpen iron I see in the background is one of my favorite kind of hallmark scriptures, as I would hope a lot of Christian men's is. And we're going to dig into it because this series is called Change Drivers. And what I want to get from you and for the audience is to learn your expertise and the successes you've seen through the brotherhoods and the masterminds and the community that you've obviously identified as a core pillar for this walk and for our ministries. But before I do that, man, share a little bit of your background, maybe how you started View from the Top as a company and kind of evolved from years and years of successful entrepreneurship and business.
I appreciate that. I'll only take a minute. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version because I want to get into the practical application that can help your listeners. You know, it's not really that important too much about me, but just for context, I live in Nashville, Tennessee. Robin and I have been married 42 years, 2 daughters, 5 grandkids. This is our 14th business over the past 43 years. So that gives you a little context into my background. Back in the early 90s, I met a guy named Dave Ramsey that was starting a radio show here in Nashville, and he approached me to be one of his sponsors. And I reluctantly agreed. Now I'm glad that I agreed because I spent 21 years sponsoring his show. We became very good friends. And shortly after an accident that I had in 2001, where I ran over and killed a pedestrian on my way to work, I was in a really bad spot, John, and I needed people around me to kind of walk me through that. Dave invited me to join his mastermind group, where we spent the next dozen years meeting in his office each and every week, helping sharpen one another. As Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. And we took this to mean literally sharpening one another. So when I retired 11 years ago for my third and final time, Robin said, I've retired more than the law allows, but I did retire for the third time. And she said, you're working harder now than you've ever worked in our marriage. And I said, well, it's because of the life transformation that's going on. As a result of us starting to coach, helping a few people find their way, I started doing podcast interviews, and God opened the floodgates. And we turn around 8 years later, We have 150 men from 4 different countries around the world meeting in groups of 10 virtually each and every week, learning how to sharpen one another so that they can maximize their life. And so I get the privilege to do that each and every day.
Yeah. There's, I've noticed in the last few years, the mastermind groups have really started to kind of spring in onto the scene in a big way. They've become very popular, which leads me to believe, even if they're strictly business, not faith-based, either one, it lends itself to the theory that community is vital, and that just bouncing ideas off each other, holding each other accountable, shoulder to shoulder, kind of locking arms through adversity even. Tell us how that, I'm going to let you kind of flow with the story of the tragedy that happened as deep as you want to go, but tell us how that sort of pulled you up out of the mess, if you will, emotionally, and how that springboarded you forward.
Well, here's what I've discovered over the years. I've had the privilege of working in men's ministry for probably a better part of 35, 40 years in my church. I was saved as a young man, 9 years old. So I've been in church my entire life. And I see the isolation that men really are in each and every day. They've got this facade, like, I don't want you to know that I'm struggling in my marriage or financially. I don't want you to know that my children are misbehaving. We have this pretense about us that if you think there's something wrong with me, you won't like me, which is nothing further from the truth. What it actually does is it allows you to be in community where God created us to be, right? Mm-hmm. He wants us to be in community, but we recoil from that. And we're like, hey, if I share with John that I've got this problem, he's going to not think as highly of me. And what happens is it endears you to other people because it gives them permission to share areas of their life that is not shored up as well either. And so what we've done is created a platform where we deal with men in their totality, whether it be personally, professionally, and spiritually. Because years ago, prior to the accident, I was solely focused on making money. It was like, hey, I needed another retail store. I wanted a vacation home on the beach. I wanted a big house. I wanted nice cars. Like, there's nothing wrong with those things. But when you make that your primary focus, it then can become your God and not the purpose-driven life that we were created to live. And so after having the accident, I started reflecting back saying, like, what does my life stand for? Like, what would my legacy have been at 40 years old had I been killed that day rather than the pedestrian killed? And my legacy would have been poor kid from Nashville, Tennessee, makes enough money to retire at age 27 and nobody cares. And I'm like, man, that is not what I want my legacy to be. I want my legacy to be that John's life is better as a result of having interacted with me. Now he feels more purposeful, more meaningful. We have a great relationship rather than a surface relationship. And so I turned around and dove in and I said, I'm going to be a giver and not a taker. Here's the irony of that story, though, that's hilarious to me. When we do things the way God wants us to do it, the irony of that is I've had more success now financially than ever before. I've had way more significance in my life because I've devoted it to helping other people. And now at the end of the day, I can go, God, I did all I knew to do today, right? It was helping other people all the while. Listen, John, don't hear me wrong. I like nice houses, nice cars. I like to take trips. I like to shoot guns. I like to do those things. You can't do those things if you're broke, right? We need to make a living to take care of our family. Just don't make the idol of money and things, right, the sole reason that you get up each and every day. I agree. Well, that's what it did for me. It just reoriented my focus.
That's good, man. And so many of us need it. And I would say, even just kind of liken it to an analogy of tithing, I would much rather have God bless the 90% that I have than me wrap my arms around the 100%, and grip on real tight. And to your point, it's, once you shift the lens and start sort of making it about something else, not instead of, but sort of above the material possessions, the success, quote unquote, once you make it about kind of pouring that out and leaving that legacy, man, it's amazing. Like you said, God just kind of blows it up, right? He just kind of, in a good way, expands it. And I love his math more than I love my own. He's a good mathematician. So you wrote a book called View from the Top. And so maybe a little bit, maybe tell us a little bit about that. And then I want to kind of dig into why the masterminds work and more behind that curtain. Okay.
People ask me all the time why I wanted to write a book, and I didn't. I didn't want to write a book, but I was sitting in the mastermind one day thinking, and I said, I've really got a story. There's really something there. But I started thinking through the guys that was in my mastermind. They'd written numbers of books, and I said, who would read my book? And then one of the guys spoke up in a mastermind group that I'm in. Ken Davis is his name. He wrote a book called Fully Alive. He's a Christian comedian, traveled all over the world for 30 years, entertaining and encouraging people. And he said, hey, Big A, everybody calls me Big A. He said, hey, Big A, he said, you're writing the book for the wrong reason. I said, what do you mean? He said, if it changes one life, will it not be worth writing that book? And I said, man, you are so right, Ken. Ken said, listen, 17 people have contacted me and told me they didn't commit suicide as a result of reading my book, Fully Alive. And so, man, I hunkered down and I started writing that book. It took me about 18 months. And after I released the book, one of our members, Chris Hewitt, called me and he said, hey, Big A, I just want you to know my oldest son, 20 years old, he doesn't read, but he picked up your book. He started reading it and he accepted the Lord as a result of reading your book. And I'm like, dude, it was all worth it for that one young man to come to know the Lord. And so I'm very raw in the book. I really talk about how to live a successful life, but I'm really raw in the sense of telling my failures, my past. I even talk about in the book where I literally was going to kill a guy. I was out west on a hunting trip and this guy had done me wrong. And I picked up the gun. I started shaking. And I put the gun down and I'm like, what are you thinking? Like, what in the world? Like, I'm a deacon in my church. I'm a Sunday school teacher. And this bitterness had so encapsulated my life that I was about to make a really stupid decision. And I talk about in the book of how you've got to let bitterness go because you use that filter for every decision that you make. And I gave it up on that hunting trip and I was able to resolve that. And so I talk about it being a view from the top because nobody wants a view from the bottom, right? We all want our own view from the top. Mm-hmm. And I just really encourage people to be obedient and follow the leadership of the Holy Spirit. And you too can have a view from the top.
Yep. I like that. And it sounds like, because from a distance looking at you, it would seem like everything's buttoned up and shiny and roses and rainbows 24/7 for 40 some years and grew up in church. And, so I think that authenticity and transparency that you talk about in the book, of course, with that incident in the woods and then the pedestrian, like there's some things that guys want to relate to. And the ordinary average Joe may not relate to a guy that's owned 14 companies or could have retired in his mid-20s or financially everything's buttoned up. So the fact, the relatability, I think probably, if you would agree, is the magnetism to that book. And then, ultimately to these masterminds, when guys they get drawn into what's that about? Why are these guys over here getting together in groups and why are they talking about stuff? Guys don't talk about, we go do stuff. What do we, and they see the fruit from it. Talk about how that's been attractive to guys and how that's sort of allowed you to grow this mastermind, into what you said it was.
Here's the thing. Like I was thinking just then when you said that about you appear to be all buttoned up. If you knew some of the thoughts that I had in the last 24 hours, you probably wouldn't even have me on as your guest, just to be honest with you. We fight so many temptations and trials and bad thoughts, and it's constant, man. It's constant. You know how guys are, and there's just constant battle that we face and the relationship challenges that I've had and the bad decisions that I've made over the course of my life. And listen, here's the other thing. People with a little bit of financial resources, there's even additional distractions as a result of having that can take you away. And so there's a lot of challenges along the way that we as men, regardless of how many zeros are on your bank account, we all deal with the same thing each and every day. What I found in these mastermind groups is it gives me a safe outlet to be able to say, hey, the good, the bad, the ugly, regardless, like I don't want to think these things. I don't want to do these things, but I do. And you guys help hold me accountable not to do those things so I can be a better person. And so I have failed so many places in being a good dad wished I could go back and do it over. You know, I've got a daughter 39 and a daughter 37 now, and I see so many problematic areas that if I had had good men around me on a weekly basis, I could have dodged some of those landmines. I could have made some different choices and different decisions. And so the relationships that I've formed as a result of being in those groups are my very best friends now as a result of that, because we're doing life together.
So good, man. I mean, there's power in that. And I mean, I'm going to spitball here and take a real big risk and say Jesus probably could have done his ministry by himself. He probably could have pulled it off, right?
Sure.
But he grabbed 12 guys. And so I always go back.
First mastermind group, by the way.
Absolutely. I keep going back to that.
I said Jesus had 12.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense, you know, even if somebody that was perfect and could have done it alone didn't, then maybe we should learn from that. So when we talk about change, and I believe men, you know, you change guys and get them on the right track, you sort of change a community, a family, community, a nation, a world, probably. So we're trying to see where some of the spots are. Where are some of the blind spots that maybe guys need to change, but haven't or won't or can't, you know, do? What are you seeing kind of come out, you know, in these discussions that is a common theme where you're like, man, if guys could just nail this, and this, man, we would see a massive shift in our culture.
Yeah. There's a number of things that I could highlight, but I'll just highlight a couple for the sake of time. One is the isolation piece. We already discussed that a little bit. Regardless if you don't have all these travesties in your life, or you're like, hey, I don't deal with those necessarily, but there could be a point in time where you do. And if you're going to build relationships, you need to be building them before you need them, not during the time you need them, because then you don't have the bandwidth or the time to build those. And so you may be on the mountaintop today, but you could be in the valley tomorrow. The other thing is the comparison. Men are comparing constantly, you know, and so a lot of guys' wives are comparing as well. Why don't you do this like this person? Or why don't you do this and make this much money? Why don't we do this? And so guys are constantly comparing. And God made you uniquely you. He didn't make you the guy next door, the guy across the street. He uniquely made you. And if you weren't being your best version of you, who's going to do it? And so we are the spouse of these wives that God has entrusted us with, and we need to bring our A game. Who's going to be your children's dad, if not you? And so I think when you get around people, you don't know what you don't know. I've been highlighted so many things in my life. It's like, I didn't even know to think that. Like, it wasn't even on my radar. And guys challenge you. They hold you to a higher standard. They help you be consistent. See, that's the other thing that's so difficult in our lives today is there's so many shiny objects out there. You know, there's all this social media FOMO, you know, if I don't go do this, you know, Tim Ferriss had a good thing, but everybody thinks if you're only working 4 hours a week, then that's the way to go. Well, he don't tell you about the 3 decades that he worked prior to that to get to that 4-hour work week. Right. And so we're constantly seeing everybody's A game. And I hate that. I hate seeing people, you know, living in Hawaii and they work an hour and a half online. They've got this lifestyle business, but they don't know the devastation and the travesties that are taking place in their family lives and their relationships. And see, we got to be careful comparing and watching. And so when you get into a group of people that are competent, that are capable, that have strong core values, that you're aligning with their worldview, then you can go forward and you can be all that God created you to do. I just don't think it's possible to do it alone.
Yep. I agree. There is a world out there that glorifies the shinier it is, the better it is. And we can fool a lot of people. And the comparisons, man, you kind of striking a chord with me, because that's just a common thing, just to always be looking, okay, how can I get better? Okay, this guy's doing it. That's what I want to be like. So here's where we're going to go. Right. And multiply that times 10,000 in a week of looking at that. You know, when I'm selling a car online, I'm probably not going to take a picture of the opposite side of the car that might be a little blemish, right? I'm going to take the side that's flawless looking. We don't see the whole car. You mentioned something in your bio on your website that I want to kind of dig into a little bit, because I think it correlates, and I think there's some parallels with the way men, if I want to draw the comparison, you say that your business time, all these years in business, has taught you how to have no excuses,
right?
Make it amazing,
right?
And that everything is figure outable, which I didn't know that you created words too. Like you
That's
made
such
up
a
your own
word. Look it up.
It might be a word. Yeah.
That is a word. Everything's figure outable.
Okay. Well, so if we're talking about guys, of course, no excuses applies. The make it amazing is how do we show up?
Right.
We can make something amazing by the way we show up, and then everything's figure outable. I would relate that to never quit, because we got a lot of guys. You mentioned the word consistency earlier. We got a lot of guys that, man, they're out of the gates. They're guns blazing, man. Full
they peter
steam.
off fast. Yeah.
And then opposition or comparison or insecurity or fear or something.
Sure.
And we kind of pull back, right? We pull back, we let off the gas, and then ultimately maybe we quit, especially if we run into obstacles enough times. Talk about why you came up with those. What was the kind of moment?
Yeah, that's 3 of our 5 core values. I'll go over them quickly and then we'll break them down. For me, relationships matter most. Mm-hmm. That's my first core value. Regardless if you're providing a service or you're selling a widget, relationships should always matter most. Second one is make it amazing, no excuses, everything's figure outable. And then our last core value is truth before opinion. And truth is established through looking at the lens through the biblical references to find our identity. Our identity is not in tangible possessions. It's not in what we do. It's who we are in Christ. And so for me, we've got to have a baseline by which we make all decisions. And for me, it's God's word. And so it's truth before opinion. So when I start thinking about these guys that start out strong out of the gate, they're sprinters, right? They're not marathoners. And the reason they're not marathoners is because if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go with a team. Yeah. And it's the same way here. It's like, I hate working out. Like I loathe going to the gym. So I hired a trainer and I have accountability partners that text me, did you go to the gym? Did you go to the gym? I have an accountability group for almost 30 years. We've been meeting every week, Monday mornings or Friday mornings. And we've done that now. I've worn out 3 groups. This is the 3rd group I've got. For 15 years. We've been meeting every week. They ask me very pointed, direct questions. How's your thought life? Are you taking care of Robin? You getting home at 5 o'clock? You providing well for your family? Are you going to the gym? Are you eating properly? I don't want to go in there and go, I'm a loser. Like, no, I'm not. It's like, they're like, come on, Big A, you can do this. See, I need that accountability. I need people asking me, did you go to the gym? So I pay a trainer 3 days a week. I go to the gym. I work out. I just worked out before we got off call. I was still kind of sweating. Yeah. But you know what? The more I do it consistently, the more I'm starting to see a few results. I sleep better, right? And I'm starting to feel better. I've got more energy. And I'm like, man, it's like pushing through. You keep pushing through. It's the same way in business. And the trainer will get onto me, like I'll be on that bench and he'll go, come on, dude, you got one more. I said, man, that's all I got. Come on. Yeah. I would probably give up 2 or 3 reps earlier if he wasn't there encouraging me on.
Hey, do yourself a favor when you get done listening to this episode and go check out my sponsors on their websites. Those links will be in the show notes. But I want to thank the following for supporting Last in Line podcast. I want to thank Armored Nation Coffee. I want to thank the folks at Do Work That Matters. I want to thank Kevin Fulton over at Lead Like Lions. Thank you to Gridiron Coffee. And thank you to Cowboy Revolution Apparel. Those are just a few, and we're adding to the list, but these are ones who have started with us at ground zero and are sticking with us till the end, hopefully. So go check out their website, get some of their products. Now back to the show.
So listen, it's willpower is an exhaustible resource. You cannot go with willpower. It's going to fade. It's going to go away. You've got to have a bigger why. There's got to be a reason that we're doing what we're doing. In these groups, we help you establish your purpose, your why are you doing that, right? My why is because I have 5 grandchildren and I want to be able to go out and pitch baseball and play cornhole and go up in the woods and hunt and go out on the lake and fish. I don't want to be that guy that can't get out of the chair. I don't want to do that.
Right.
My bigger why. And I think about that when I'm on that bench. Like, I got my grandkids are counting on me, right? We got to have a bigger why. That's what people around you can do. We can borrow their courage and their strength when we don't have any. And it just, that camaraderie, you're locking arms, you're on a mission together, and they encourage you on. And so for me, that's the reason I created these core values. Every decision I make is filtered through those 5 core values. And if it's not a yes, then I don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned that first one that's key, the foundation of the truth. And I wanted to interrupt and say, are you sure it's not your truth and my truth? Are you sure there's an absolute truth? Like the society will tell us it's my truth. So, you know, that's got a sliding scale to it. No, I say that jokingly, obviously, but, man, so I love those core values. I love that I learned a new word today, figure outable. Give us, so let's go, because we're talking about change drivers. Like, guys need to feel like there's a reason to change before they accept that theory that change is possible or even desirable. And then it takes an average of like 66 days to make something automatic, is what the data says. So guys that come and they kick the tires on a mastermind, or they, you know, they're dipping their toe in the water. Sure. What are some things? Let's go, you know, good news or bad news. Let's go with maybe some not so great, and then we'll finish with some great. But what are some reasons guys drop out? If they do? I'm assuming you've had some attrition. I'm not going to assume that everybody come in is sticking.
No, life changes.
Long term.
No, well, they do stay long term. You know, guys stay with us 5 to 8 years in these groups.
Yeah.
If there was an extreme value, they would be doing that. You know, when you look at people like Dave Ramsey, he's got 700 radio stations. Ken Abraham's written 105 books. Dan Miller, 48 Days to the Work You Love. Jeff Mosley, INO Records, Mercy Me is one of his groups. When those guys are willing to allocate an hour and a half a week, and they're running multi-million,
an hour and a half
companies,
they don't have, right? An hour and a half they don't have.
So my point is guys, I don't have time to do that. Well, I mean, you're busier than those guys then. And if they're not willing to go and invest the time for personal and professional development, like, you don't just wake up through osmosis smarter than the day before, right? We got to be reading, studying, being challenged, having other people around us. So we hear a lot from guys that go, I don't have the time. The other thing is the money. People say, I don't want to invest money in that. It's like, well, okay, so go figure it out on your own and take 3 times as long, have no accountability, have some failure in your life that's going to take you years to recover from. I talked to Jeff Hoffman. Jeff Hoffman was one of the founders of Priceline, and he said that he allocates an hour a day reading about things that have no bearing or interest to him whatsoever. And I'm like, why would you do that? He said, because 90% of the things that he's discovered came out of the 10% of the reading that he has no interest in, because it opens up new avenues. Yeah. But he goes through a door he's never been through. He sees something he's never been exposed to. Darren Hardy said that he spends 10% of his net income on personal development. I thought, man, that's a lot of money. And I went and looked on my balance sheet. I spend more than that. The conferences, the books, the courses, the coaching, the masterminds, like, in every year for the past 43 years, for the most part, there's been an exception or two in there, I've made more money than I did the previous year. Well, it's because I educated myself better. And so a lot of people say, wow, man, you may have a point there. So if these wealthy people are doing it, if people like Dale Carnegie and people like Henry Ford would invest 20, 30, 40 years in mastermind groups, there could be something to it if you look at the level of success that they've had.
Right, right. Well, what are some warning signs with some that are out there? And I'm not trying to shift this into picking apart what other people are doing. I'm just curious, because if I'm window shopping masterminds.
Yeah, great question.
And so what are some things to look for and maybe be aware of, maybe kind of consider that are good or maybe not the best?
I'll summarize a little bit. We've talked about it a little bit, but first of all, you need to be sure that you're willing to commit for a period of time. These people that just hop around masterminds and suck them for all they're worth and go to the next mastermind, that's not creating the real value. The value is created when you're in these long-term, you build the relationships, Now people in your group know your propensity. They know your values. They know your aspirations. They know who your family is. They know what your long-term goals are, and they know how to hold you accountable to accomplishing the things that you want. Also, I would align the core values and the worldview that you have with the organization. I would ask the organization, what are your core values? What are the principles by which you stand? What is the instruction manual you're teaching from? What is the things that you're trying to accomplish for yourself? Have you had any level of success or significance yourself as the leader of the organization, right? It's easy to go out there and start something and have had no success. I went to a Belmont College as an adult, and the teacher was up there teaching on economics, and he wrote something on the board, and I said, that's inaccurate. And they said, well, Mr. Walker, would you like to explain? I said, I'll be happy to. You may come up there, you may do it from here. I was kind of being a smart aleck a little bit, but the truth is what he was teaching was wrong. And I said, you don't even talk about recovering depreciation in that real estate investment, and it's a real variable. And he said, well, you're right, Mr. Walker. I said, why aren't you teaching these young kids that then? He said, it's not in the manual. I said, the truth is you've never done it. See, that's the difference. People can read it and teach it, and there's a difference in people that have lived it and done it. And so just be sure that the owner or the orchestrator of the organization has lived it and done it.
Wow. Now that might be the gold that somebody needed to hear, because like I said, these are not a new concept, but I feel like everywhere I look, and maybe it's just because of social media exposing and revealing all this, but I feel like they're everywhere now. So if I'm looking for one, it would be easy to just jump into, like we said earlier, the shiniest, brightest, most flashy,
best
the one
presenter,
that makes all these
best
promises.
Marketer.
Yeah, the one that makes all these empty promises that maybe can't deliver on. But I like what you said, because I think it goes back to the point of, where's your heart, kind of what's the posture of your heart? Are you more into making deposits or withdrawals? And if you're just in it for withdrawals, then you're going to bounce around, like you said. Same with relationships. You're going to go to the next one and the next one, whatever you can get out of it, right? Well, with these, to have staying power, it's got to be a long game. And you, like you said, 5, 8, 10, 20 years, that's when you start seeing really the fruit from why these are even beneficial. Man, you mentioned a battle earlier, because the Bible talks about a spiritual battle that we can't see with forces we don't know or can't touch, because mentally we all fight that every day. How have you seen, because there's not an end to that battle, but how have you in your life, like you said earlier, you've got a place to kind of go and decompress, right? To kind of flush some of that out. Are guys willing to do that? Maybe the longer they're in it, because
after
I want
they learn to trust you.
The consistency is huge. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, you got to earn that trust. You get in these groups. When I first went in Dave Ramsey's group, I told Robin I didn't want to go. She goes, why don't you want to go? I said, Dave's going to be all up in my business. He's going to be pushing me. He's going to be asking me these hard questions. And I don't want him to know that you and I have disagreements, and some of our kids don't behave sometimes. And I have cash flow issues, and I've got lust problems occasionally, and I don't want him to know all those things. And I don't want to lie to him, but I know he's going to be asking those things, and we're going to be talking about it. But see, what happens is I find out Dave Ramsey and Sharon have problems occasionally, and there's cash flow problems in any business. And, you're going to have kids that are going to misbehave, and you need to be able to go to a place and go, hey, I'm hurting today, and here's the situation. Like, I don't like it. I don't want to be in this position, but I need some input. I need some insight. I had a guy tell me recently one time, he goes, I'm going to go home and tell my wife this is what she's going to do. And I said, how long have you been married? He said, 5 years. I said, well, I've been married 42 years. And you go home and tell your wife that, you're going to find your butt on the couch tonight.
Yeah.
And I said, here's what you need to do. And I gave him a tactical approach, went and did it, worked magnificently. You know why? Because I got 42 years of experience with that. He's got 5 years of experience. It's the same in any industry. It's the same in any situation. People used to tell me that how to raise my kids. I said, how many kids you got? Well, I don't have any kids. Well, don't tell me how to raise kids then, because you don't have a fat clue what you're talking about. Well, I understand because I read this. I said, you go have a few kids, come back, and we'll talk more about it. See, I want to be there with people that have been on the front line. I want to be with people that have actually done it. oftentimes I'll get a call and people say, "Hey, Big A, I know that you ran over and killed that pedestrian. I've got a friend that's gone through something similar. Would you be willing to talk to them?" They are locked and loaded on my conversation because they know I've been there. They know I've been in that situation, and I'm able to share and encourage and tell them it's hard. Like, it's going to take years to work through this. A lot of people will say, "Hey, you do this in 90 days, you'll be good." That's a lie. There is no way. You don't have an accident and kill a pedestrian and get over it in 90 days. God walks you through it, and he gives you the grace at some point to be able to deal with that. But this is years. Like, I took 5 years off after I had that accident. Man, I had to get my legs back under me. It took a while. And so, see, people listen to that because I've experienced it. And so just be mindful and cautious. Any advice that you're taking from anybody, people telling you how much money, you can make, is like, well, let me see your balance sheet. And let's make sure that what you're teaching, you've implemented personally. Mm-hmm. And so we just got to be mindful of that. Here's the thing we do in Iron Sharpens Iron. We tell everybody, we take all the risk out. We just tell them flat out, this is what is expected of you. And we go through and tell them, if you're not coming to do the reps, you're not going to show up, you're not going to do the work, you're not going to do the programs, you're not going to read the books, don't even join my group, because people are paying money for you to be there and participate, just like you want the people there that are participating. Here's our promise. We'll do these things. We'll deliver these things. We'll provide an amazing place to come, and you're going to get results. And if you don't, after 6 months, we'll give all your money back. So see, we take away all of the risk long as you are doing the work. And that's why people stay 5, 6, 7, 8 years in our organization. That's the reason it's growing. We're going to have probably 30 groups in the next 18 months. God just keeps sending amazing people to be in our organization, because we have a high threshold of entry, because we want people that are willing to go the distance with us. And so there's an application process. We vet these people out. We make sure that, hey, you're in, you want to run the race, you want to be better, and you align with these core values. If that's you, come and sign up.
Right.
And if it's not, then, hey, maybe you need to find a different group.
Right. And so as I shift before we kind of close and land the plane on this, I noticed there's an Iron Sharpens Iron for women. And we focus primarily on men. I want to ask, what are you hearing from the spouses of these guys that start out in that, in that first year, 2 years, and or do you get feedback? I would imagine they're calling going, "What are you telling him, man? He's done a 180. Like, give us some success stories."
It's unbelievable what the wives have become our biggest advocate. We only do women for the men members. And so we don't take women outside of the members' wives. But what Brett Barnhart, one of my clients for 8 years now in Tulsa, Oklahoma, joined the mastermind, and he did an April Fool's joke with Crystal, his wife. He said, "Hey, I just wanted you to know I've been in for a number of years and I'm getting out." She goes, "No, you're not. You're going to call Aaron right now and you're going to rejoin." And he said, "No, I've had enough." And he just really played it up. And they got into an argument. And like I said, "Man, why didn't you let it go?" And he said, "I was trying to see how far she would push." Well, she joined. Shortly thereafter, she joined, and I can't even begin to tell you the transformational experience in his business, in his personal life, in his spiritual life. And now it's just incredible to see what they're doing, because they're working together as a team. So now the woman is growing at the same clip and the rate as the husband. They've got things to talk about. They've got goals. They've got vision. They have accountability, and their marriage is just on fire. And it's as a result of they're both focusing on making themselves better.
That's incredible, man. That's my old stomping ground up in Tulsa, where I grew up, and that's good to hear success stories all over. And I'm imagining everybody, that this is a virtual world and people are connected virtually, obviously. Do you guys place a mentor with somebody when they first come in, or is it just kind of come in, tread water till you figure it out?
We walk with you. No, we walk with you. We have facilitators that are assigned to you. Okay. And we help onboard you, get you positioned well. We do a program called Come As You Will Be in 2023, but we'll do one at the end of 2023 is Come As You Will Be in 2026. But what you do is you pick aspirational goals, personally, professionally, spiritually, relationally, and financially. And then we develop a strategy that you do the task every single day until you accomplish the goals. When you have that level of focus and you've identified what the goal is, most guys are readjusting their goals because they underestimated what they can do with that level of focus. And so we hold you accountable with a digital accountability tool that you fill out every week. So we know every week where you're standing on the accomplishing of your goals. So you do that for a 36-month period. You can only imagine what you'll achieve. We had two brothers, Will and Ryan Ingram. They live in Dayton, Ohio. They came in, they joined 3 years ago, and they were doing a joint venture between themselves. They had 4 rental houses, which was pretty cool. They had bought 4 rental houses between them. They were young guys, still are pretty young guys. They learned the process. They learned the systems. Today, they've bought over 250 houses between them. There's people in the organization that is helping fund their project. Their goal this year is 200 houses. So if they accomplish their goal at the end of 2022, they'll have 450 houses. See, they learned that through intense focus, accountability, resources from within the group, and they're just wash, rinsing, and repeating. They have 7 teams now that remodel the houses. They have a full-time manager that leases the properties. Yeah. They've learned this as a result, to their own admission. I'm not saying this, they say this. They said they didn't know how to do that until they surrounded themselves with these competent people that taught them how to scale their business.
To your point earlier, they probably never saw that sort of level of growth. And so they probably estimated the goal. Yeah. That's
one was
tremendous.
In the mortgage business, and one was a retired not a retired police officer, but a police officer.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
And so, but what I'm saying is that's one tiny example. Not everybody's going to do that. We'd be foolish to think that everybody's going to come in and be able to do that. But this just gives you insight. It gives you perspective. It gives you resources. It gives you new ideas. It gives you accountability. It gives you the ability to focus. Like, yeah, we could do all this on our own, but to your admission earlier, we start out of the gate strong and then we lose steam. We don't have the energy. We don't have the level of accountability or these insights.
Yeah.
So regardless, my group or somebody else's group, if you're hearing this interview today, I implore you to go and get involved with a community that aligns with your core values and your worldview so that you can take your life to the heights that I'm talking about.
For sure. One final question, and then we're going to have you direct us to kind of look it up and get the resources that are available. But so I'm assuming guys are constantly growing. Like you are growing just like the guy that's in his first year, and you're learning things about you. You're developing. If I were to ask Robin today, what has changed in Aaron over the last year or two, what would she say? What has improved the most?
Yeah, she would say probably from a business standpoint, because we've been in a really growth mode. We've got a goal that we're calling the Road to 300. And I have eliminated all the peripheral shiny objects, and I've narrowed my focus. Now I'm not an inch deep and a mile wide, but I'm an inch wide and a mile deep. And it's because I've got a singular focus to have 30 groups in the next 18 months. And she would say that I'm spot on with my aspirations and my goals, and that I'll accomplish that. And it's because I've eliminated all the shiny objects.
That's so good. Wow. That's good, man. Tell our audience where to start, how to find you, how to find the mastermind, where to start, and just kind of dig in a little.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, John, for allowing me to be on. If you enjoyed this interview, I teach every single Tuesday. We have a program called tuesdaynoon.live, Live. Excuse me, tuesdaynoon.live. And it's free. There's no charge. And I teach for 45 minutes. And it's on topics like we had today. And so we're having people come from all over the world now, just understanding, learning more. We talk about getting unstuck. We talk about transition. We talk about accountability. So if you enjoy that, just go to tuesdaynoon.live, and I would love to interact with you more. Obviously, our website, viewfromthetop.com, is a place that you can find out more. And if you've got a question or I can help you in any way, I'd be happy to help you.
That's so good. Yeah, the resources are out there. And and like we said earlier, maybe not everyone is a one size fits all, but this one here, if you're looking for something that stands on the truth of the Bible and the biblical Christian worldview, that's the place to start with anything. And so this one, audience, I would say iron sharpens iron, says it all. And I would definitely look into this one first if you're considering a mastermind. So Aaron, I appreciate you being here, man. I know you got a busy schedule. Thank you. On behalf of the audience, we're very grateful. He's been Aaron Walker. We've been Last in Line. Be blessed.